Welcome to Go For Side Effects. I'm your host, Kevin Simon. You all know my lovable, laughable co-host, John. John,
Hey,
how
everyone.
you doing today, buddy?
Good, man. Thanks.
All right, today, everybody, fumbling words because of John. Today we got Kevin and Wendy that are coming on. Kevin was in the United States Navy, which I had to say it, 2 against 1 today, and I
Here we
love
go.
it. And so, Kevin, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell about your time you were in, and then we're going to bring Wendy in on this. As somebody who can give more perspective as a wife, and just let everybody know she is a nurse in the medical field, and so she's kind of learned about what she's been going through and he's been going through to help other veterans out. So I want to welcome y'all to the program.
Thanks, Kevin. I appreciate it. And it's good to have another Navy person so we can team up and attack John.
Thanks. I appreciate that, Kevin. Yeah, great.
Anytime. The majority of my family was always Army too, so it's good to finally have a way to pay back.
Well, and it's really, I mean, since we're going to go ahead and get into this now, we might as well talk about football and how many years the Navy kicked the Army's ass before the Army finally could win a game. I'd be like 10, 12, 16 years, something like that. I mean, I lost track. All right, Kevin, go ahead.
So I served in the U.S. Navy from December 97 to October 05. I was in Operation Southern Watch, Operation Iraqi Freedom, and Operation Enduring Freedom. And I was attached to Fighter Squadron 11, the Red Rippers. That's that big banner hanging behind me. It was a squadron of F-14s stationed out of Virginia Beach. And we did 3 deployments. My first deployment was February 98 on the John C. Stennis. And that one was a maiden voyage, and we went all the way around the world. And on our second deployment, that one was Feb 2000, and that one was on the Dwight D. Eisenhower. And that was a med cruise. We hit about every med port you can imagine and had a grand old time while we took care of the no-fly zone. And then in February 2002, I was on the JFK, and that was our combat cruise after 9/11. And in the 1998 timeframe, that was the time where we were introduced to the anthrax vaccine. And we didn't really, the enlisted really didn't know any information about it. We didn't know the history of it, of what you guys went through before us. We got very little intel on it. We were told that it was a mandated vaccine that we had to take. Otherwise, we would get court-martialed and thrown in Leavenworth or booted. And that's all the information that we got from them. So we lined up on the John C. Stennis and got our first shot and our second shot on that ship. And when we got back to Virginia Beach, I completed this series of 6 shots.
Wow.
I didn't have any symptoms right away during that time. It wasn't until after my second cruise around the year 2000 where I had a back injury. I got hurt working on one of the jets, and that seemed to be like something that set it off. And then I started to get migraines, couldn't sleep at night because of that. And I was an aviation machinist mate. So I was always wrenching, working on engines and fuel systems. And they started to tell me that I had arthritis in both of my wrists. And I was still in my 20s at the time.
Wow. In your
And I was,
20s?
yeah, I was in my late 20s, and they said I had arthritis in my wrists. And I was like, you're out of your mind. You know, what's going on? And I remember, trying to use a ratchet at those times, and my wrists would actually click, and it felt like it was almost bone on bone. And
Mm.
um, they just threw the Motrin 800 at me. You know the drill.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys talked about that in previous videos, and it seems to be the go-to thing that they throw at you. And we continued on, and I pushed through it and made it through the last cruise. And then I actually re-enlisted, and um, I went on for uh, another enlistment and did shore duty at VF 101, which was a couple doors down. They were a training command of F-14s, and at that command, that's when I started seeking more attention from medical because I was on shore duty, and the back pain wasn't going away. It was getting worse. I was starting to notice strange issues with my knees. Like before, I could kneel down underneath the aircraft all day long, 24/7, not have a problem in the world. And then all of a sudden, it it just started to hurt, and I didn't know why. I never had problems with my knees before. Um, so I pushed through all this, and they they actually had a guy that did chiropractic care on base, and I had a couple chiropractic care sessions, and I was getting close to my exit date for my second enlistment, and the command VF 101 was actually decommissioning because they were actually getting rid of all the F-14s at the time. They were no longer going to be used in the U.S. Navy. The Super Hornet replaced them. So there's no need for the training command VF 101 anymore. So they're shutting down that command, and my exit date for my second enlistment happened to be right around the same time. So I got out in October '05, moved back up to Massachusetts to be close to family, and that is when I started to really notice things go south.
Okay. I have to ask a question. Now, were y'all married while he was in the service?
Yes.
Okay. So I hate to pause you there because this is a very important question. I know a lot of listeners out there are going to want to know. When did you start seeing the changes? Because usually the spouses can notice the change before the person does.
Well, like when he said he was in his 20s and, he started noticing his wrist pain and stuff like that. At first I kind of just blew it off. Like he works hard, he's tired. But then started noticing and saying something's not right when it hurt to pick up a pot of coffee and pour himself a cup of coffee in the morning.
Wow.
And just like little stuff like that, where you're just like, that's not right. Maybe if you're like 80, maybe it's hard to pick up that pot of coffee, but in your 20s, that's just, there's something wrong there. But when we moved back up to Massachusetts is really when everything started to snowball. The back pain actually got so intense sometimes that he had a hard time getting out of bed in the morning. Sometimes I would help him
What year
put
was
on
this, Wendy? I'm
socks.
sorry.
What
What
was
year
that?
again? What year was this? That in the Army we call it ETS. I don't know what the Navy calls it. I mean,
The 2505.
It was the end of 2005.
and what did you get any sort of? I mean, what did the what the Navy say, or what the VA say? Did they give you
They said
any
it was
information?
arthritis.
I
That's
Yeah,
it.
so that's
Arthritis.
it's really interesting. Right before I discharged, I went to Norfolk, Virginia, at the Naval Hospital, and they did EMGs from my neck all the way down my arm, and that was painful as hell. I was in tears as the captain was doing it. And he said, "Son, there's no nerve damage. There's nothing wrong with you. This is just arthritis." He said, "You have a clean bill of health. We're going to discharge you."
Well, John, I'm going to tell something that most of y'all don't know. But before I tell you, Sheila wanted to know, John's from Iowa. Yes, he is from Iowa. Same treatment in the Marine Corps. Yeah, I mean, it is. It's the same in any service, how everything's going. But Southern Watch that you brought up on here, Kevin, the Southern Watch started in 1992 to 1993. And it blew my mind when you start telling me y'all were in, Southern Watch, because the Gulf.
It went on a little bit further than that.
Right. And
Yeah.
see, the Gulf War has not ended. It does not have an end date. If most people don't know that, let y'all know the Gulf War has, just like the Korean War, has no end date. So, with all this being said, and with Wendy, you being a military wife, and God bless you. First off, any of y'all that were military wives, God bless you. I don't know how you put up with our asses, especially sailors being gone. I'm serious. I mean, damn.
Oh, I know you are.
I mean, golly. I mean, I can understand, maybe Army and Air Force 9 to 5 job, and no, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I had to throw this. But I mean, with Navy wives are different. I'm sorry, Navy wives. It's a whole. They're a whole different breed of women. I mean, be honest with you, they really are. So I got to commend you for that. I don't know how y'all put up with it, and how y'all did it. I don't really understand. But when you started seeing the changes, and Kevin, you started seeing the changes in yourself, did they ever diagnose you anywhere with any type of neurological, even till this day?
Now they have. They didn't say it's neuropathy or anything like that. They just said it's fibromyalgia and
There
chronic
you go.
fatigue.
Welcome to the world of fibromyalgia. No,
Yep.
to me, another word for fibromyalgia, they really have no idea what the hell it is, because my mom has it, and for you, really, the way my mom had rods put in her back, and the rods came out, and they were just tearing at the meat while they were in there. So when they took them back out, she ended up developing fibromyalgia. But that's a form of doing it. How is our service people that don't have that traumatic back problems, don't have that traumatic anything, getting fibromyalgia? And I mean, I still, nobody has really explained that to me. It's a muscle and nerve problem, correct? Am I right on that?
Yes.
And so, I mean, what's it like dealing with it every day, knowing that you got fibromyalgia?
It's tiring. I was going to mention that on my claim, in parentheses next to that, it says bilateral muscle and joint pain. And that's exactly what it feels like. I mean, someone pokes you on the wrong spot just lightly, and it hurts. Or your major joints hurt all the time. It
Man.
hurts, you're laying down and you wake up in the morning and you want to sit up and kick your legs over the bed and get out of bed and stand up. And, someone that's young is just going to kick their legs over and stand right up. And I feel like I'm 70 when I kick my legs over and I try to stand up. I'm grunting and groaning, and it takes me a couple of minutes sometimes. And when I was at my worst, I'd lose my balance and have to grab a hold of the wall because I was going to fall down.
People picked you up at work too because you fell down at work.
Yep.
Are you kidding me?
And I would need my wife to walk with me and hold my hand. She'd have to help me get dressed because I couldn't bend over and put my socks on.
So
It got really, really out of control after 2005. And I went through several primary care docs at the VA, and they were blowing me off. And I finally got this one primary care doctor that I stuck with through the whole thing. And in the beginning, I don't think he really believed me because he kept on trying to push me to mental health.
yeah.
And I said, fine, I'll go to your stupid mental health, but nothing's going to change. I'm still in pain. So I did what he said. I went to mental health, but then I followed up with all his appointments too. And he's like, how you doing? How you doing? And I said, I feel like crap still. How do you think I'm doing? I feel the same way I did the last time I saw you. And it's progressively getting worse. And it progressively got worse until we were into the year around 2014. And I got to the point where I was bedbound. And now I couldn't get out of bed barely at all. And I have a master bathroom right off of our bedroom, and that's about as far as I went. I would get up and hold on to the wall and balance myself holding on to the king size bed and hop and leap to the next wall to get into the bathroom. And I'd use the toilet, and I'd hop and leap back to the bed and jump back in the bed. And that's where I stayed because I didn't have the strength to go anywhere.
So Kevin, Wendy, what if you had to say two things that would have been the most beneficial for you personally as you're going through this, whether it's a medication or otherwise, what would you say? And I'm just throwing out the top two because I mean all of us vary on what helps us and what doesn't.
Wow.
I know that's a loaded question.
Well,
but
he got to the point, nursing perspective, like his extremities started changing colors, which as a nurse, you call that modeling. Usually that happens before somebody dies. And I just pretty much went in full gear and started doing all kinds of research, and it started with supplementation. And I guess like the supplements kind of sustained him long enough for me to be able to figure it out.
Pregabalin.
What kind of supplements, Wendy?
Oh boy.
Another loaded question.
It's a big list.
One of the major ones was D-ribose. It's like a powder, and it helps your body create energy, and it kind of stimulates energy on a short-term basis, and it makes you feel like you have energy, even though it's the supplement. It's basically giving your body what it needs that it can't make itself, but it uses it up really quickly.
And this is something you can buy over the counter?
You can get it off by Amazon and everything, yeah.
What's it called again? I'm sorry.
The letter D and then a dash and then ribose.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, our listeners, a lot of people are going to try it. I mean, because we're all going after, not that we understand there's no magical pill, but we're all going after something.
But that really helps with the energy levels. But just like supplementing with like B vitamins, omega-3s, CoQ10, your D3 magnesium, because like the muscles really use the magnesium a lot. And it helps with muscle spasms. And then the other stuff is like almost like anti-inflammatory stuff, like turmeric and ginger, and stuff put together. We also did alpha lipoic acid, and then we also used a topical DMSO cream. And the DMSO kind of helped heal the muscle fibers that were always in spasms and breaking down. But that one's a hard one because a lot of people are really sensitive to it and will get rashes from the DMSO, so you have to be careful with that. But in the beginning, it was just really a lot of supplementation to help his body function. And it took a couple years before I figured it out. The amount of research I did was insane.
So for Kevin, so for his body, for his particular instance, because again, I mean, we all have a lot of commonalities, but each of us, because we're all made different, it's like looking for that one magic pill or whatever. And I mean, and none of us want to take a freaking prescription. I mean, we hate doing it. Some of us have to, but I lull the idea of having to, okay, take this pill, take that pill. I'm like, nope. And then you take it, and then you got this thing called side effects, whatever those wonderful things are. So then you got to back out of that.
Right, right.
Pain in the backside.
Now, I I'm sitting here because like I'm on Lyrica, and they took me off of the Cymbalta, which really truly I think it's messed me up more because they took me off of it and they put me on some Veloxapine crap. I don't know. Oh shit! There's another depressed medication, but I don't know. He said, "Oh well, it will interact better with the Lyrica," and I'm over there like, "Look, you done jacked it up because now my freaking legs start going numb. I mean, more stuff is going numb after they switched me on the medication."
Huh?
And I'm just like, but my feet don't burn. That's the damnest thing. I will say this. My feet haven't burned now that I've been on it a while. But, man, you talk about mess up my head and mess up. I mean, getting used to the medication is a big problem with most of us.
And if you skip a dose of those, that'll mess with your head, too.
Oh, man, one day will mess with my head.
Yep.
Humor me when you say mess with your head. You meaning what does it do? Make you drowsy, make you
lightheaded, confused,
dizzy, brain
or bad thoughts, or what?
No, I really truly I think the medicine's made me more goofy than anything. I mean,
you know what I'm laughing at,
right? Because normally, I mean, without the medication, I'm a pretty wiry little guy anyway, and I like to have fun and stuff like that. I try not to let anything. But when they put me on it, everybody says, "Wow, you're a lot more happier." And I'm like, "Oh, I thought I was always happy." They're like, "No, you're a little bit too happy."
You're a little too happy.
And I'm like, "That's not even doing pot. That's not doing any of that stuff." And I'm like, "Could you imagine me on that? I'd be like talking about blah, 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 blah. It'd be crazy." But so, does he take medication prescribed by the VA? That like, I'm sure you gone through it, you researched it and studied it, because I mean, like a lot of people are like, I won't touch Lyrica. I'm on 600 milligrams of that crap right now. Yeah. But I mean, we don't know. Later on down the road, I'm sure I'm going to see a damn video. Contact law firm if you've been on Lyrica, if you've been prescribed it, and now that your big toe fell off, or part of your kneecap comes off. I mean, you know them damn commercials that come on TV and say,
"Yep,
You know, that say that. I'm like, I'm guarantee you every one of these medications us VA guys are on, we're going to be like, well, shit, I took that. Yeah, my kneecap fell off a long time ago, or, you know. I mean, I'm just saying. I mean, do you look at the medication he takes and say, no way, I'm not letting
There was a couple of them, like one of them was as simple as a statin drug. If you don't know statin drugs, especially if you're on stuff like Cymbalta or duloxetine or something like that, it can actually make things like PTSD worse. So a lot of times I will go to some of his appointments with him, more of a patient advocate than his wife. And sometimes I'm looked at as part of the healthcare team, and other times I get doctors fired. So, it's not a joke. I actually did get a doctor fired.
Hey, if they got it coming, then more power to you. You know.
I tell my veterans, you know, you got an issue, go to the patient advocate
advocates.
office. That's what they're there for.
But yeah, I do look at all of his medications, and go to a lot of his appointments, to make sure I understand, especially when there's a change, why they're changing it. And also knowing what supplements he's taking, because I've researched, you know, like, for instance, 5-hydroxytryptophan cannot be taken with a lot of the PTSD medications. So I would make sure, like, if he was going to be put on something, that it's not going to interact with other stuff he's taking at home. Plus, we see, outside the VA, we also see another doctor that's an integrative medicine specialist. So they're the ones that really helped him, not the VA. They helped him a lot, discovered a lot of stuff that was wrong with him, ran tests that the VA refused to run.
Imagine that.
I think the people will recognize them better as a homeopathic doctor.
Well, it's a little different than homeopathic. Integrative medicine looks at the body as a whole. It doesn't look at, you have heart disease, you have cancer, you have this. It's everything together, and why is this happening to your body? What's the root cause that's causing everything else together? They do treat homeopathically first and then medication. So that's the difference. But they actually ran tests. They sent a lot of stuff out to California to a special lab to test for different illnesses that could possibly come from overseas. I don't remember everything they found now, but they found 4 or 5 different things that the VA never even looked for.
Well, here's where it gets really interesting, guys. I actually had the VA run some labs that Garth Nicholson suggested, because when I was on my deathbed, I got in touch with Garth and I said, Garth, I need help. I think I'm gonna die. And he called me and said, these are the labs I need you to pull, and, you know, get a hold of your primary care doctor. I can't be your doctor, but you need to tell your primary care doctor to try to pull these labs. And I went to my VA primary care doctor and I said, you know, based on this prior research that Dr. Nicholson has done, I think it's a good idea to pull labs and see if I have a mycoplasma infection. And they pulled the labs and they said, oh no, you're good. Well, at the same exact time, they didn't know we were seeing the other doctor out in the private sector. And we had them pull the same exact lab, and I was way over the threshold.
Shut the front door.
The same exact lab. I can't make that up, Kevin. I still have the records for both.
So they just point blank lied to you.
Yep.
Oh, son of a bitches.
It was, yep, right on the lab records. The VA said, nope, you're fine. And then the private sector said, holy crap, you're sick.
Wow.
I had a mycoplasma infection.
So with that, what did they do? What did they detox you a certain way, or I mean,
The
what?
private sector
Well,
detoxed
yeah,
me.
yeah.
The
Not that
VA
we
didn't
know the
do
VA
anything.
didn't. We definitely know the VA didn't. But so that's pretty much, is that what they do? They kind of go in, detox you, get you the right medication to get that down.
Yes.
Yeah, and it ended up being like an antibiotic cycle, and it actually took 2 years to make it go dormant. So
Wow.
it was a cycle of 3 different antibiotics, and then he'd have like a 2 week vacation, and then he'd go back and he would be on a different form of the same antibiotic. Like, so there's what most people are familiar with, doxycycline. So
Right.
there's also aminocycline. So you can alternate those two, and then the body doesn't get used to it and then doesn't recognize what's happening, but still is fighting the infection.
Okay.
You're doing a good, really good job, Wendy, by the way. Kudos to you and the way you're explaining things. It's not
Yes.
over my head, which doesn't
I
always
try.
take a lot, but you're
I'm
you're
just
you're keeping it
saying.
within reason. So thank you.
I
You're
mean, it's
welcome.
John, but I mean, I'm with John. It's I mean, most of that stuff would go over my head, but you are doing a great job on that. But now, okay, so on this, so everybody understands what you're going through, because we got listeners who are probably going through the exact same thing. And Discarded Vet even asked the same question. I'm going to ask this. So, which test is it that he wanted you to run? What is it called?
There was several mycoplasma tests. He recommended Mycoplasma fermentans
Yeah.
and Mycoplasma pneumoniae. And there was also Chlamydia pneumoniae, which is
Not the
not
STD.
an STD. It has something to do with pneumonia. But we ran all three of those, and the Mycoplasma fermentans is the common one that Dr. Nicholson would see a lot, but I popped for the Mycoplasma pneumoniae way over the threshold.
Wow.
So you guys obviously know we've had Dr. Nicholson on the show. It's been a spell, but how did you guys come to get to know Dr. Nicholson?
I read his book by accident,
By
Wow.
accident.
and then I
Wow.
hunted him down and I sought for his help because
Awesome.
I did.
because I really needed help. I didn't know who to turn to.
Yep. And then I was at the same time I'm doing research. He finds this guy, and then I find the integrative specialist. It was like a little like an hour and 20 minutes away. And
Wow.
when they ran these labs and they found it, they immediately started him on the doxycycline. They also do like what's called a chronic illness IV. Basically, it's just a bunch of vitamins, minerals, amino acids that kind of boost your body and boost your immune system to help you fight it.
Okay. So on top of that, Wendy, did you see his report at all? As far as from the VA, the blood test?
I didn't see it from the VA. I just saw it from the private sector.
Isn't that amazing? Like, you can't go on My Healthy Vet and it comes up?
Oh, I can print it and I can show it to her. I have them printed and they're in my bedroom.
I mean, because this question was asked to y'all. Can y'all go back and file a lawsuit against the VA for falsely reporting it? Because they could have almost killed you.
That's a great question.
That is a good question.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I mean that.
I mean, this is very true. I mean, I was stuck in my bed, and as my wife was saying, my extremities were modeling, and I was so weak. I remember one day I had all the strength in me, and I looked over at her and I said, "Baby, don't let me die."
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry y'all went through that, and I can see
Yeah,
Wendy is getting emotional, and so I mean, I do understand. I mean, it came to a point that, I mean, when I was laying in bed, I'd get up, go to work. I mean, I could barely walk. And they finally, the doctor, I have a really good, you know, primary care. She was like, let's just check your B12. Let's just check it. And it was at 70. And she was like injecting me immediately. It was like, no, you're coming right back up here. You don't stop anywhere. You need to get injections now. And so I get injection every other week. And for me, I never took that test, but I'm going to ask for that test because I still feel tired and everything. So, but, you know, like for discarded vet, you should be asking for these tests. And I know him very well. And after the show, you can call me Jason later. But I do think you need to take these tests that he's taking because this sounds like a lot of what he's going through.
You can
but
give him my contact information too, Kevin.
because he's going through the same problems as everybody as everybody goes through, but if not worse. To me, there are certain areas of the United States that I do believe the VA is not good, and I do believe the VA is good in the other places. And I don't know where y'all based out of, if you don't mind. What state? What just state?
We're in the western part of Massachusetts.
Okay. It seems like, I don't know why it is, but that corner of the area and West Coast corner, the VAs just are totally different than the Midwest and the South and Florida. I don't understand it.
We have a new clinic because the town I live in is small, and the CBOC clinic is really nice, and the nurses and the staff and everybody that work there is nice. But my experience is they can't keep the doctors at the clinic.
Oh my
Now,
gosh.
in either direction, it's a 45-minute ride to get to Northampton, VA, which is in Massachusetts, or they now allow us to go to Albany, New York, which is 45 minutes in the other direction. And those two locations seem to be okay. However, while I was at Northampton, that's the location that shunned me off and did all my lab work and everything and told me there's nothing wrong with me.
Well, you come to Texas, I'll change that shit right here. I'll tell you right now. I mean, but this is where we need to change it. See, a lot of people don't understand the Gulf War illness doesn't just apply to Desert Storm veterans. It doesn't just, it applies to everybody who was out there.
I actually had my doctor actually told me you were in the Gulf War.
That's right.
And I said, that's right. But I wasn't in Desert Storm, but the Gulf War has not ended. There's no end date. And when I told him that, he just looked at me like really funny.
Think about it like this: is when you go into the VA. I am working with a news organization right now that actually did a report on us Desert Storm guys and the Gulf War vets. That she wrote a great paper up, and she is getting in contact with me with other news organizations because it's time to put the VA accountable. They're making millions, billions of dollars. These people are making a lot of money up in the top, and everything is that trickles down is nurse practitioners, but they're practicing nurse practitioners. God bless anybody in the nursing field as far as nurses, nurse practitioners. I mean, any of y'all going through it. But if they do, the only thing they teach about in the books that I at least know of about Desert Storm vets is ALS. Be honest with you. I mean, Wendy, am I right on this?
It's very true.
That's
all
the
they
only
teach.
thing.
And, like in nursing homes, they have I actually worked at a nursing home where a lot of the nursing home was dedicated to ALS. And I'm not there anymore, but looking back, some of them actually were veterans And it made me wonder, now that I know everything we went through, if that's what was happening to them and nobody ever picked up on it.
Right, right. And it got so bad it ended up turning. I mean, nobody really understands how ALS works. It's horrible. It's terrible, and it's disgusting that the Gulf War veterans are most likely get it than any of them. I didn't know.
I wish I understood. You know, it's unfortunately it boils down to politics. I think all the nursing staff and everything. I've always had nothing but positive things, and the doctors who are working for the VA, you know, they're being told what they can say and what they can't say, and so I don't necessarily blame them. I blame the people who are at the top. Yep. And aren't allowing things. It's because of our exchanges and bringing things to the forefront. Wendy, you know, doing a phenomenal job of sharing the medical terminology and what's happened with your husband. And, you know, that's great. Now, if we can just get our leaders to accept it, and unfortunately, you know, it boils down to money. That's what it boils down to.
All they have to do is put me in charge of the VA. I'm dead serious. Could you imagine me being? I would go to every one of the VAs and be like, "Look, y'all gonna learn about Gulf War. Y'all gonna learn about Vietnam. Y'all gonna learn about Korean War. Y'all gonna start treating these veterans properly." Well, I literally have a bill that's sitting out there that hasn't even been. I haven't even got a call back on about just why don't they freaking do a commercial about this stuff. Hey, you can run a damn commercial on Camp Lejeune, which them people deserve it 100%, but so does every other veteran out there. The PACT Act, to me, piece of shit. It helps the Camp Lejeune people, and I love that. I'm grateful for them. But the rest of it's a piece of shit. I'll tell everybody sitting out there, if y'all think that the PACT Act is so great, it hasn't done a damn thing. The VA is backlogged up over a year of claims.
It's all the politicians giving themselves a pat on the back.
That's right. Hey, we're going to help the veterans out there. You ain't helping the damn veterans. You still go to a doctor today. Go to him today and say, what do you know about the Gulf War? Nothing. So it's time to change it. It's time us veterans start educating. And the one thing about it is, like today, this morning, I decided, hey, I'm going to start. I went on every Gulf War, Desert Storm. Y'all saw about us coming on tonight. I was declined by 15 of them. And one of them was veterans to something, veterans, something, about asking them if, like veterans, we get together and give information and help each other. I don't know which one it was. I wish I knew it off the top of my head because I
know what one it was.
But thing about it is they block you. Why? Because this is veteran to veteran. We're not sitting up here for the glory of, oh, hey, great. You know what? We're making millions of dollars like the VA does. No, we're up here trying to help each other. We're trying to connect all the veterans together. That's what this is about. If we can't unite, then hell, what's the point?
Well, and you said the Gulf War hasn't ended. You know, anybody that served in the military, whether Iraq, Afghanistan, what have you, it's all part of the Gulf Wars. Because, you know, like you said, you're in the Gulf. I mean, and the guys and gals that are over and helping out shit that's going on in the Ukraine now, they're going to have problems that we don't even know about yet. And it keeps on snowballing. And, you know, it's folks like us. I'll give us a pat on the back because we're trying desperately, one at a time, like Wade said so many times, trying to help one person, a veteran at a time. And it takes our snowballing effect to the other vets to get the information out. You know, Wendy, I thank you so much for coming on with your husband tonight and speaking. And by the way, so I don't forget, at the end of our conversation, don't just sign off. You guys just hang tight after the live part goes, because we'll have a little conversation if you guys got time after the fact.
Yeah, we got plenty of time.
I just want to be healed. I want all of us to be healed. That's all I'm asking for. I didn't start out on this crusade just to start out. I was pissed. I'm upset. I want to be fixed just like everybody else wants to be fixed. Now I want all of us fixed. Screw them all.
You know what, Kevin? We didn't get sick overnight either.
I was just gonna say that.
Some of these injuries were onset over a long period of
Right.
time. And
Yep.
I know everybody wants to feel better, and it's a real struggle, especially when you're really, really down and it gets depressing and you don't have strength left in your body to fight. But you got to keep that fight going because there is hope, and you can get better from it, but it's going to take time. It doesn't happen overnight.
But
Yeah, I used to joke that, you know, because as he said, it doesn't come on overnight. I used to joke with him that I was allergic to my husband because no joke, like if he like gave me a hug and my skin would come in contact with his skin, I would break out in a rash.
Just from touching.
really?
And that was just the beginning of stuff. And then fast forward a few years later, I got really sick. Nurses are very stubborn when they get sick, by the way. They don't go to the doctor. You know, I'm like, oh, I don't need Tylenol. The fever's going to do its job. I'll be better. Day 3, I'm like, honey, can you help me to the bathroom? He goes, yep. Then we're going to the hospital. And found out I was septic. I had a medical team. I started having cardiac issues. They didn't know why. So now I had a cardiac team, and then they brought in infectious disease. And then once some antibiotics got in me and I wasn't so crazy, infectious disease came down, and I said, can you run the Mycoplasma pneumoniae lab? And they looked at me like I had 6 heads. And I'm like, you're already taking all this blood. What's one more test? And then that's when I found out I was sick.
Wow.
And it was it likes to attack muscles and joints and tendons and ligaments, and it just decided it was going to attack my heart. So but yeah, it doesn't come overnight. Like those rashes just from him touching me were like 5
Right.
years prior to the onset of when I got really sick.
And I'm a member of the Burning Semen Club.
Yeah.
Yep.
Huh.
Hey, I'm a member of it too. I think I'm gonna write a song about it.
Yeah,
Sure.
we ended up having 10 miscarriages.
Oh,
my
wow.
gosh, I'm so.
And I look back now and I'm just like, I think it's really all connected.
Well, it is. I mean, when he came home with them, with everything on his uniforms and everything else,
Yep.
and so all that it will affect you and everything. I mean, I will say this, Wendy, you're one hell of a woman.
Thanks.
You are one hell of a. You've explained a lot for me that I didn't understand. I mean, I got a lot out of this interview tonight, and I really I did. I got so much. But Sheila, yes, I did try to get a hold of John Stewart. I haven't got a call back. If anybody would like to help me get a hold of him, send him my way to come on the show. I would love, you know.
Well, yeah, John Stewart's a good advocate for us.
I mean, I would love for him to come on the show and talk to us and understand what we're going through. But I mean, we're going to be wrapping it up here and going into the after show. But Kevin and Wendy, y'all have any last words? Well, hold on. Wait, that did not even sound good, son of a gun.
I was just gonna
Do
say
y'all have
that,
any last thought? No, that doesn't sound
I was
good.
just gonna say I know a lot of people have issues with their children as well. And it just so happens when Kevin was his sickest, I was pregnant with our child that is currently now very sick.
Oh,
So I think it was passed during pregnancy. And she's now 16 and she's struggling every single day of her life. So just know that, as I know there's a lot of people out there that have sick children, that you're not alone in that. And we really understand that as well. And if anybody needs to talk about that, like you can give out our information if they need help with their kids or have questions.
Okay. I tell you what, y'all are very
I
amazing
agree.
people.
Yep.
Very amazing couple. I have to say, very amazing.
Yeah, I've really appreciated, coming on together, husband and wife, the veteran and the caregiver, and explain. I mean, we've had both together. Everybody's situation's a little different. Different things have happened to us all, and I always enjoy it. And like Kevin and I have talked multiple times, we always learn something new every time. And it's sometimes it just like we're like we can't believe it, but yet we know why can't we believe it? There's so much stuff that goes on with us all.
And,
Right.
and please say the name of that test again, so everybody out there can know what to go ask their outside doctors for.
Mycoplasma fermentans, Mycoplasma pneumoniae, and you might want to get checked for chlamydia pneumonia.
And that is not a sexual transmitted disease. I will
It is
repeat
not.
that for you. So, but thank y'all once again, and thank you for everybody listening. This was a heartfelt, awesome show tonight, and I want to thank y'all for listening. Y'all have a great night, and God bless each and every one of y'all.
Thanks
for
everyone.
having us.
Okay. Thank you for listening to Go For Side Effects. If you have any stories you would like to share or just have any comments or questions, please email me at kevinsimon@goforsideeffects.com.